Hello and welcome back to the Eyes of O Gaming channel for another game review. And today we're taking a look at a game that is in the supernatural or horror umbrella of games. Although I think it's fair to put this in the horror genre, it's not going to be overly horrifying in a jump scare or standard horror game style, but we'll get into that. So today we're looking at the game Murdered Soul Suspect. This one was developed by Airtight Games and published by Square Enix, releasing in 2014. Most people watching are probably going to be familiar with Square Enix. Some other games made by Airtight are Crimson Skies, Dark Void, and Quantum Conundrum. The studio itself actually closed shortly after the release of the game that we're looking at today. So what is Murdered Soul Suspect, and is it worth it all these years later? Let's take a look together and hopefully help you answer the most important question asked in this review series. Is it still worth it for you? Let's get into it. The game is set in present-day Salem, though the release is over 10 years old, so present day is going to be relative. Basically, you start the game as police detective Ronan O'Connor. A serial killer known as the Bell Killer has been committing a series of killings of what appears to be unconnected victims. So what I'm about to say might feel like a bit of a spoiler, but I'm not going to say how it happens, and it does happen extremely early on. And it's really kind of hard to talk about any part of the game without at least mentioning this. So the detective that you're playing as, Ronan, ends up getting killed himself, and so the player will play through the game as the ghost of Ronan O'Connor. Essentially, you're going to play out the rest of the game trying to uncover who is and why the Bell Killer is committing the crimes they are. And you play this out as the ghost version of Detective Ronan O'Connor. This investigation will have the player traveling all over Salem, exploring and investigating different locations, talking to ghosts who are inhabiting these locations, and sometimes even messing with the living who happen to be there at the time. So what are we looking at to compare? Well, I kind of felt like you're playing as a ghostly Sherlock Holmes in a more modern setting, so we can compare to the Sherlock Holmes games that we've already looked at on the channel. For instance, Sherlock Holmes Crimes and Punishment. We've got investigations and some interrogations which can feel similar to this game. There's also going to be some clear differences with this game, such as the setting and the fact that in Soul Suspect you're, well, a ghost. Also in Soul Suspect it's basically one large investigation and you're trying to track down the Bell Killer. On the other hand, Crimes and Punishment was essentially broken into episodes or cases. There are going to be some small side missions in Soul Suspect that allow you to investigate other things, but these will typically be really quite small and simple to get through. Usually it's just about trying to give some other spirit closure. Another game that we've also looked at on the channel is Call of Cthulhu. Both of these games are going to feature the supernatural in a strong way. We've got that eerie atmosphere and there is clue gathering in both. So aside from those two games, we've got another one that is maybe very similar, but with a totally different atmosphere. That's going to be L.A. Noire. In Soul Suspect and Noire, we're playing as a detective gathering clues in his own, conducting investigations and trying to get information from witnesses and bystanders. Where Soul Suspect deviates, though, is that there is less of a direct action element. It's not completely devoid of it, as you will need to avoid or take down demons, but that part's essentially just going to be a stealth aspect within a zone investigation. Going back to the other games that I also brought up, if we look at the action and direct confrontation on sort of a spectrum, with L.A. Noire obviously having more of a direct approach throughout and Sherlock being the complete opposite, Soul Suspect along with Call of Cthulhu are somewhere between, where action throughout is mostly relegated to stealth sequences, though I would argue that Soul Suspect is still a little bit more action oriented than Cthulhu was. Soul Suspect is listed as a third-person action-adventure stealth game. The priority of mechanics is on the investigative side, so there's a focus on gathering clues, which you'll then need to determine which of those are the most relevant to a particular situation, or arrange things in a sequence of events. As a ghost, we have a bunch of different mechanics and abilities. There's poltergeist options to mess with people or create distractions, which are needed in some areas. We've also got mind reading, possession, teleportation, and phasing through walls, and some other ghostly abilities as well. In terms of some of the less active ability style game mechanics, the game essentially revolves around exploring your investigation zones, gathering clues, and solving an investigation. There's also a bunch of collectibles which can be found in most areas, and these often unlock ghost stories which you can listen to. As I mentioned, there's also some stealth and very light combat mechanics, basically hiding in shades or exorcising the demons, which exorcising demons essentially equates to a stealth takedown with a quick time sequence. I think it's fair to describe the graphics as a little dated at this point. That said, they didn't bother me at all, and personally I felt like they're holding up quite nicely. Of course, this is just going to be my subjective opinion, and so use the gameplay footage in the video to help you determine if this is your style. There isn't going to be too much in terms of diversity of environment. Most of it's taking place in a very similar location. Of course, the entire game is taking place in locations in and around Salem, and so having a fairly consistent environment throughout just makes logical sense. I would say that the most obvious unique feature is that you're playing as a ghost detective, or detective ghost. Anyway, it does feel similar to a game like LA Noire or Sherlock Holmes, but where those games were rooted in very grounded sets of storylines, Sole Suspect goes deep into the supernatural and gives you a unique perspective to experience the game from. Another interesting aspect of this game is how it's surprisingly combat light. Coming into it, I assumed that the game was going to focus more heavily on the combat aspects, and when you eventually reach investigation zones, which include demons, I figured that they were going to give you options of a more direct nature. Surprisingly, Sole Suspect really does not go too far into the combat, and the demon mechanic is focused only on stealth takedowns or running away from direct engagement. In this sense, it does feel more similar to the Sherlock Holmes games, but still manages to be different enough to not feel like a copy of that style. As far as bugs and performance goes, I didn't run into any major ones or performance issues at all really. As always though, my experience does not guarantee that you're going to have a similar one, but I just want to mention it so you have something to go on. Sound is always a totally subjective thing, and it's either going to appeal or not depending on the person. Personally, I thought that the sound was done pretty well, and voice actors seemed really good and dialogue delivered well. I'll just play some examples here though so you can make up your own mind as to whether it's something you're interested in.
I can fix it. If I just get back in my body, then maybe I'll wake up.
Yeah, I saw it. That man in the hood. Outside. Looking up at the top apartment on the 4th floor, I think.
Probably should have listened to what they were trying to tell me. Maybe then things wouldn't have ended up like this. Thanks again.
I'm sorry, I don't understand what you're talking about. How could I rob my own future?
You're here to resolve something. You don't resolve it, you don't leave. Don't worry, that's pretty common.
So with the general look done, we're going to get into opinions and subjective territory. This is the part of the review where I switch from giving you a breakdown of what the game is and move into more just how I felt about it, if I enjoyed it, and if I would recommend it to one of my friends. Just keep in mind that whether or not I liked it doesn't mean that you're going to or not, because every game is going to appeal to different people. This is also why I avoid using anything like number ratings or stars, because you can't quantitatively measure a game or any entertainment media in this kind of way. A game that you hate might be someone else's favorite of all time, which is a great thing. It's nice that there's so many different options out there for people. And so for the final question, did I personally enjoy Murdered Soul Suspect, and would I recommend it to a friend?
Ah yes, the ghosts.
Yes, I thought it was great. I really enjoyed going back to an old school style game. It's open-ish world, but really it follows a linear story. So although you can explore the main world, you're really just going from zone to zone. Once you get to a location though, that's when the exploration comes in. You can find collectibles to unlock ghost stories or conduct side investigations for other spirits, with the whole point of giving them closure and allowing them to move on. I actually really like the style of the investigations in the game. It's not so mindless that you just walk around and find the things and that's that. I like that there is some kind of input afterwards. Piecing it all together isn't as drawn out as the Sherlock Holmes deductions, but to be fair, that was the main thing in that game, whereas in this one, it's just one part of it, with many other gameplay mechanics around it to support it as well. Solving the side missions are pretty fun. They don't take a ton of time either, which is nice. Basically, they tend to be small diversions from the main story while you're in an investigation zone. They also don't just feel like time sink fetch quests. I feel like a lot of more modern games, the side quests built in are more and more just used to waste your time, rather than being fun or interesting on their own. A lot of games just tend to use massive open worlds in order to send you on some really drawn out fetch quest for nothing. In this game, the side quests are short and to the point, and it's neat to be able to give the spirit in question some closure on whatever their own issue was. The stealth part of the game I found to be extremely easy. Like I said, in some zones you're going to have some hostile demons roaming around. The whole point is that you're going to try to avoid them so that you continue on with whatever story mission you're on. You don't specifically need to take them down every time, and there are of course gameplay ways to distract them and just avoid them. Personally, I found that sneaking up and taking them out was extremely easy to pull off, and just made moving around the area so much more convenient. So every zone I would come to that had them, I would just take out every single one first. Then I could go around and fully explore the place to find all the clues and collectibles. Of course, how you choose to do this will be up to the player, and some people might find it more enjoyable to try to not take them out and just use sneaking to get past them. The story is pretty good as well. It's not going to feel like a revolutionary experience, but it is quite fun to play through. I would go ahead and recommend this game to anyone who gets enjoyment from games that involve investigations and extra points for people who enjoy a good supernatural element while they do it. So I hope you enjoyed this look at Murdered Soul Suspect. Have you already played through this game? Let me know down in the comments if you agree or disagree with my own opinion. If the video was helpful or entertaining, please give me a like here and also consider subscribing to the channel. I upload a variety of different gaming content, not just reviews like this, but also walkthroughs and other gaming videos, and I'd love to have you join the community and help direct the future of the channel. Until next time, thanks for watching today, and take care.
A serial killer is terrorizing the normally sleepy streets of
This
Salem.
crude drawing of a bell has been left at the scene of several murders
Leading
over the
police to
past
refer
few
to the
weeks.
murderer as the Bell Killer.
We spoke with a public relations officer.
Authorities are asking anyone with any leads to contact the
This picture of a
SPD's
bell,
anonymous
a
tip
calling card
line.
the police have yet to
Leaving
attach
no
any
clues
meaning or
and no
significance
leads
to,
for the
has
police to
become
follow.
synonymous
And
with
no
the
link
hysteria
between his
surrounding
victims.
his murder.
You're saying there are no leads? No leads at all?
Grow up on the streets. You start thinking you're invincible. Nothing can touch you. You never really lose.